Hello you fine people, and look what I've got for you today. I have got to present to you Gnome's Weapon Shop. We've got 3 weapons we can buy, we've got some gold in our inventory, and we can click to purchase one of these, and we can play about with them a bit. We can go back into the shop, we can buy weapons, all sorts. If you want to see how to make your own weapon shop, then keep watching, I'll show you how. Now, admittedly, this video is a bit of a long one, but I'm going to be talking through how to make the whole UI. And the good thing is, it's not too long. It's only, 50 lines in the whole thing? It's actually pretty straightforward when we get into it. It's just a bit of explaining. But if you want to make this, then keep watching, and you'll get your own weapon shop. See you at the end. Now, creating a shop GUI is actually quite easy. But before we can create the shop, we're first going to need something to sell in the shop and something to buy those items with. So let's start off with something to buy the items with. And in this case, we're going to use some leader stats. So we're going to use a little leaderboard and we're going to have some gold. So we'll start off by adding in a script. And we'll just do this on a player added type script. So you start off by defining a variable for the players. And then we connect this function to whenever the player is added. And then it's just a case of setting up our leader stats. So we can say local leader stats equals instance.new. And all it is actually just a folder. And then we'll define some properties for it. We'll give it a name of leader stats. That's very important. You have to call it exactly leader stats, all in lowercase, otherwise it won't work. And then we'll just give the parent for it, which will just be the player. Then we'll just create some, what shall we call it? We'll call it gold, shall we? Local gold equals, and this is just going to be a int value. We'll give it a name. And in this case, we can call it what we like. We'll click gold with a capital G. We'll give it a value. Normally I set this to 0, but seeing as we want to be able to buy things from the shop straight away, we'll just set it straight to 100 in the script. And then finally we'll give it a parent, which will be the leader stats that we've just created. Now obviously, ideally, you would have the gold assigned to the player either from killing enemies or from trading or from some kind of in-game behavior. But for the sake of just showing how a shop works, we're just going to give them 100 gold straight away. So hopefully now when we've got this script set up, we'll rename it player setup as well, so we know what this script is. And then if we go and play, we should hopefully see we have some gold. We'll load in. Yep, we've got our players list over here, and right next to it says gold 100. So we've got our gold. Okay, so next we need something to sell in the shop. I'm going to go and open up the toolbox and nab some weapons we can add in. So we'll get some free models and we'll just see what we can get. Maybe use these featured ones. We'll add in the pistol, and it asks me if I want to put it in the starter pack. Now that would give the tool to the player automatically. We don't want to do that. Okay, so now I've got my 3 tools. They're all inside the workspace here, and I'm going to create a folder, and I'm going to call this folder shop items. I'm going to put all of these tools into that folder. I'm going to move the folder out of workspace and into server storage where we can look after them. Now the items still exist, but they're not actually in the game world anymore. Now all we need to do is create our GUI. So we'll close the toolbox and we'll start creating that UI. I'll name it shop GUI so we know what it refers to. And then inside of this, we're going to create a frame. And we want this to be roughly in the center of the screen, so we're going to make its size, we're going to make it, I don't know, 0.75 we'll try, shall we? So it's 0.75 of the screen width, and maybe we'll make it half the screen height. And we'll get rid of those offset values, so we're using purely relative values. For its position, we can set that to 0.5 and 0.5, and you can see what that does is it actually puts the anchor point, which is this top left corner of the element, it puts that in the center. So if we want the whole box to be in the center, we can just change this anchor point here. So if we change this value to 0.5, 0.5, Then we've got the anchor point is now in the middle. So when we tell it to be in the center, we actually get this box nicely centered. I think we'll maybe make it a bit taller. So we'll make it 0.75 tall as well. So it's a bit bigger. We're going to make it fully transparent. And we're going to get rid of the borders as well. And then inside of this, we're actually just going to add in two things. We're going to add in an extra frame. And we're going to add in a text label. Now the text label we're going to run across the top. So we'll make that to fill the entire width. And we can set the offsets to 0 again. And we'll make it maybe, we can try 50 high in terms of offset. But you see, because this text label is now inside of this frame, instead of filling the entire screen, it just fills the entire width of this box. And this is text label, it's just going to be our title. So we'll call this Gnomes Weapon Shop. How about that? And we'll make it, change some of these properties around, make it look a bit more groovy. And maybe we'll change the background color while we're here to some sort of greenish color. Or maybe how about black? Black with some white text. You can't go wrong there, can you? Okay. And while we're changing these properties, we might as well change the name. Instead of just having them labeled text label and frame, that's a bit confusing, so it's best to give them descriptive names. We'll name this one shop title. We'll rename this top frame. We'll rename that menu. And then this frame we're going to rename items. Now the reason we've got two frames is because we want to display our items below this banner. So what I'm going to do with this items is I'm going to, for its position, I'm going to just set it to plus this top level container just minus the top banner. So now we've got this item, this frame where we can put our items. We're going to make this one transparent as well. And then inside of here we'll add in our actual items for the shop. So I'll click plus and I'm going to use a image button, and we could just duplicate a load of these and we could try and position them all around the UI like so, or we could try and create a script that could lay them out perfectly. But what we can actually do is we can use a new, well I say new, it seems new to me, an element from Roblox called UI grid layout, and we can add that in and it perfectly lays them all out. Look, so when if I Control X, get rid of it for a second, you see they're ordered all over the place. Then when I edit back in, it all lays them out perfectly for me. And instead of changing the size and position for each image button, we can simply go to the UI grid layout and we can say, yeah, I want the cell size to be 200 each. I maybe want padding of 50. And maybe I want it to be centered. Horizontally I can put that to be center, and vertically I can put that to be center as well, and it centers everything out for me. Very nice. So what I want is an image for each of the items in the shop. So we've only got 3 items in the shop, so we'll just get the 3 buttons, and I'm going to name each of these the same name as we have in the shop. So the first one we're going to be called sword. And what we're going to do for sword is we need an image for the sword. So I'll open back up the toolbox and I'll search for a sword. And let's see if we can find one of the actual Roblox swords. There we go, this one will do. So I'll copy that asset ID and scroll down to the image and paste that in. And what we can do, if it's got a transparent background, you can actually change the image color 3 property. And you can put it all the way down to black and you can get like a silhouette kind of effect like that. So that looks quite cool. And then I'm going to repeat this for the others. Okay, so that's our 3 items done in the store. Now all we need to do is add in a price for each of them. So we'll add in a text label and we'll name the text label price. We'll change the font to Gotham, I think is what we used before. And we'll maybe make the color, let's try and make it red, shall we? Jazz things up a bit. And we'll just make sure, now actually the size fits perfectly as it is, but if we wanted to change it, then we'll make sure that it fits perfectly and along the top like that. Okay. And then we're just going to rename it price, so we know what it is, and then we can just copy that into each of these. And actually, let's get rid of those borders. So we'll select them all again. We'll get rid of the borders and we'll make them transparent as well. There we go. So that's great. We've got something that looks a bit like a shop now, but it doesn't display the items. And if we click these buttons, it's not going to do anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in a local script now into the items frame. So add in a local script, and that's going to sit next to all of these elements here. Now what I want to do in this script is I want to access what's contained within the shop items folder. Now the shop items folder is actually contained on server storage, and so if I'm trying to do some local script, I won't actually be able to access them, because if I go and click play game here, and you'll see them on the client currently, server storage, if I look, it's empty. It's because that area doesn't exist when you're on the client. But if I switch over to the server, you'll see there it is. So if I want to access them, I'm going to need to use something called some remote functions. So I'm going to add in another script into server script service, and we'll call this script shop handler script, shall we call it? And then I'm going to add in a remote event, or remote function, sorry, into replicated storage. So that's like server storage, but it's replicated on both the client and the server. So we'll create a remote function and we'll name that get price. Okay. Now in the shop handler script, we'll start off by defining replicated storage. So local replicated storage equals game get service replicated storage. And then we're going to create a function to check the price. So local function check price, and it's going to expect the player parameter and the item that they want to check the price for. And inside here, we're going to need to get the shop items. So we're going to create another variable for that. We'll say local shop items equals, and seeing as that's from the server storage, let's create another variable for that, shall we? Local server storage equals game get service server storage. There we go. So shop items will be equal to the server storage dot shop items, and then we'll use get children. So that means we'll have a table object now containing all of the items. So inside check price, what we need to do is we want to access that shop items table, and then we need to get the item from it. And we're going to pass in the item that we're going to send to this function. And then we're going to need a price. So what we're going to do is for each of these items, we're going to add in a int value. We're going to name this int value price. And then in for the value, we can say how much we want them to cost. So I think the sword will set to 10. We'll copy that into the pistol, and the pistol will make 25, and the rocket launcher will make 50. So I think that's the best one, isn't it? Okay, and so back into that script we have now, we know that so we'll create a variable, the local price is equal to shop items, and then the item, and then dot price. And then we can simply return price dot value, which would be the value of that price. And we want to call this function whenever this remote function gets activated from our GUI, if you remember. So how we do that is we say replicated storage dot get price dot on server invoke, invoke, and then we simply say equals check price. And we don't even need the brackets or anything. So we just say equals check price, and then this function will be called, and it will return price.value to wherever we call it from. So we'll head back to the local script now, and then we can say, we can create a for loop of each of these items. I know this might be a lot going on here, but it'll start to come together, trust me. So we'll say for key object in pairs script.parent get children. And that'll be a for loop of everything that's contained within the items frame. Okay, now items frame contains the image buttons, and it also contains the local script and the UI grid layout, so we need to filter out for them. We'll say we only want to check if it's an image button, so we'll say if object, and we use the isA function, and we can say image button in double quotes like that. Then we want to set its price, don't we? So if we go to its price down here, it would be object.price.text, and we need to set that to the value of what this function returns. So if we go back into our local script, and we're going to create a variable now, we'll say local price equals, and then we're actually going to need to access that replicated storage. So we'll create another one for that actually. Local replicated storage. Well, actually we can copy it from here. So we've got a replicated storage dot, and what's the name of it? Get price, and then we want to invoke the server. And we want to send it. What do we want to send? Well, this expects the name of the item within the shop. So the best way to do that is we could send the name of the image button. So we could say local weapon equals object.name. So remember, this for loop is looping through every item contained within the items frame. So it contains all of these things. And it's checking if the object is an image button. So that's going to just leave these three things. And then we create a variable called weapon, which will be equal to the name of each of these. So we'll have one variable called sword, one called pistol, and so on. And then with that weapon variable, we want to send that to the function that's on the server using the invoke server and the get price remote function, and then price will be equal to what this function returns, and then we want to send the text, set the text to the value of price. So let's go ahead and test and see if everything's working. We might have some errors we need to fix. We'll see if that works. Oh, we've got some errors here then. Right then. We'll click on this. It says line 6. We can see there's a number 6. Attempt to index nil with price. Let's have a look. So price is going to the shop items, and then it's getting item, and it's saying attempt to index nil. So obviously this doesn't exist. So we'll look at the shop items variable, and right, we can see server storage dot shop items. Okay, so we were creating a table. So I think if we get rid of the table, we don't need this actually. We just want to reference shop items. We don't need to be a table at the moment. So let's try running that just with shop items. Price is not a valid member of tool apparently. Is now a new error. Okay, so so we've called it price with uppercase. So if we just change that to an uppercase P in our code, and now we run that, we should hopefully have it working. There we go, perfect. So we see 25, 50, and 10. So that's all working nicely. The next thing we need to do is we want, when we click these, we actually want to be able to buy them, rather than just looking like fancy buttons. So we're going to need to go back to our server now, And we've got our check price thing sorted. And actually we could all combine this onto one line instead of having two, couldn't we? So let's say here, we'll just say return shop items dot item dot price dot value. And then we don't need two lines. That makes it even simpler. So that's the check price, but we're also going to need another remote function for when they purchase it. So we'll add in a new remote function and we'll call this one buy item. And then we'll copy and paste that, write this down on here and rename it buy item. And that's probably going to want to take player and item as a parameter. And then we'll change this to be replicated storage.buyItem, on server invoke the buy item function. And then we're going to want to do something here. But first off, let's head back to our local script. So we're looping through all the items, perfect. We're setting the price, fantastic. And then we just need to detect if it's pressed. Now, you'll often see when people make GUIs is they'll add in a local script into each item like this. They'll add in one into there, one into down here, and so on. But that's not really very effective because then you have to go through and change each of these if you want to change your code. So you can actually do it all inside this for loop here. So we can say object inside our loop, which we know is an image button, dot mouse button one click connect, and we connect it with an anonymous function like this. And just to show it's working for now, we can just print clicked. Okay, so although we've only written this once, because it's inside of our for loop, it should be repeated for each of these buttons. So you can say click this one, I get clicked, this one clicked, and this one, and whichever one I clicked, you can see it's working on all of them. Fantastic. So now we need to use that other remote function we've got, the buy item function. So in our local script, what we want to do is we want to say replicated storage dot buy item, and then we want to invoke the server like we did before and send the weapon. Okay, and what we're going to be expecting back is whether it was successful or not. So we say local purchase success equals whatever this function returns to us. Okay, so what we'll do, the first thing we need to check is if the player actually has enough money to buy that item. So if you remember right at the beginning, we in our player setup script, we created that gold, didn't we? And it was inside the player's leader stats, and it was called gold. So going back to the shop handler script, we can check if player dot leader stats dot gold, I think it's uppercase G, dot value is, and let's create a variable for this, shall we? Local gold equals player.leaderstats.gold. That's better, isn't it? So if gold.value is greater than or equal to the item, so we can do that like we did up here, shop items.item.price.value, we can just reuse that. Then we want them to be able to purchase it. We seem to have created an extra end up here. Okay. So what we're going to do is just going to create some print statements. We'll say print, we'll just pretend it works for now. We'll say player can purchase, and we'll add an else statement here, and here we'll just print out player can't afford this. So it's going to check the current amount that they have. And then if they do have enough, we need to remove the cost of the item from their supply of gold. So we'll say gold.value is equal to its current value minus whatever that price is, okay? So now when we go ahead and we test again, hopefully, yeah, we've got 100 gold. And when we click the sword, we can see our gold has gone down to 90, and it says down the output player can purchase. And we can press all of these, and we'll keep clicking until we've only got 5 gold left now. So hopefully if I click the rocket launcher now, we can say player can't afford this, has appeared down the output. Okay, so we've got the basics working now. Now we just need to give the player that tool. So remember, the tools are placed in the shop items folder. So all it is a case, I've gone into the wrong script there, haven't I? Shop handler script. And all it is a case of giving them that weapon. So what we can do is we can say shop items dot item, and we can call the clone function on it, which creates a new copy. And then we can do this all on one line even. We can say the clone, or the parent, sorry, of that clone will be equal to player dot starter gear. And then we need to also copy it into their backpack, equal to backpack. I think starter gear is maybe a capital G, maybe like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll play, and we'll see if that works. Right now, so I've got no tools at the minute. Press this one, and our sword has appeared. We've got our rocket launcher, we've got our pistol, and of course we can keep clicking these, and we kind of end up with 2 swords, which is a bit over the top. And hopefully if we reset, we should keep those weapons now, seeing as we've set it to the backpack and the starter gear. So yeah, the weapons have reset. But we don't really want to be able to buy the items multiple times, do we? So let's go back, and how about there's a little warning here, but that's from the tool itself. We'll go into our script, and we'll head into what we need to do is we said that we'd return a value, didn't we, to purchase success. We haven't done that yet. So if the player can purchase, then after we've done all these things, we're going to return true. And else, player can't afford this, we can return false. And we can probably get rid of our print statements now. Okay, and then back into that local script, we can now check if purchase success is equal to true. Then, and what we're going to do is we could destroy the button container, or we could just hide it. We could say pistol, for example, dot visible, and then we can make it false and disappear like that. So we'll just make it disappear, shall we? We'll say dot visible equals false, and then type the end to finish off that if statement. And by the way, we don't even need to say equals true. If we just say if purchase success, then it'll automatically see if it's true. So now when we click play, once we purchase the sword, it's going to disappear. We can purchase the rocket launcher, it'll disappear, and the gun, it'll disappear. Fantastic, and we've got all of our items now. The only thing we need to do is we'll add in a little toggle for this shop now. So let's see, I'm going to create a button, so a text button, and we'll make the text say shop in capitals. We'll set the font to Gotham. We'll do the white on black again, shall we? Background, where's background? There it is. And we're going to set its position to be, let's try halfway down the screen again, shall we? On the left hand side. We'll make it just 100 wide, and we'll make it a little bit bigger font size, like so. And then we'll add in, well actually we'll rename it as well. We'll rename it shop toggle. We'll add in a local script. And it's just a simple case saying script.parent.mouse button one click connect to this function we're going to write. And so then we want to change the menu here. So we'll say script.parent, which will be shop.gui.menu. And then we want to change its visible property, don't we? So visible equals false. So that will make it disappear, but we want to be able to make it appear or disappear. So what we'll do is we'll create a variable, so local menu equals that, so we don't have to keep writing script.parent.parent. And then we can create an if statement. We'll say if menu.visible equals, so it's comparison, false, then we want to set it to true, else we want to set it back to false. Okay, and we will rename this script here the toggle shop script, so we can keep track of all these. And then if we close all these things, and then by default we'll set this to visible equals false. Okay, so if we load in now, we've not got the shop in the way, but we can click down here where it says shop. Our toggle will appear. We can purchase a sword for ourselves. We can close the shop again. We can play about with our new toy. And then if we wanted, we could open the shop back up. Super. There we have it then. Here is our working shop. I know that's been a bit of a long one, but we had a lot to talk about. Hopefully you found that one useful. Ignore these errors. These are from the tool itself, not my code. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. See you later.